brought to you by my Patreons. Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Fer, and in this episode of Deciphering Phyrexian, Wizards of the Coast was making a live stream showing upcoming features for Magic Arena, and one of the loading screen tips was actually written in Phyrexian. And as you can imagine, I've been receiving a ton of messages from people asking me to decipher it. And so I want to thank the first two people to let me know about this. One of them is David Saunders, who is actually one of my Patreons. So thank you twice, David Saunders, for being my Patreon and for letting me know about this. And to Reddit user Skybolt, who also was... I think I received these two notifications almost at the same time, so thank to you both. And so I've been working on deciphering this text, and it has been interesting. So let me show you what I found. And okay, the first thing I noticed about this text is that the resolution was really good. Usually we have to deal with very pixelated Phyrexian text, but not this time. It was pretty legible, which I appreciate. So legible, in fact, that, for example, there is this diacritic right here that for the longest time I didn't exactly know how to write it. I used to call it the star diacritic, and sometimes I would write it like this, and then I would write it like this. But now, looking at this text, we can confidently say that you are supposed to write it like this. Which, I mean, yeah, I know it's a very small update to Phyrexian text, but it's a welcome one anyway. Okay, so now let's go word by word, and I'm going to tell you what I mean or what I think they mean. And first, this word here, it was very intimidating because, as you can see, it's quite long. And as you might know already, Phyrexian words always start with tense markers. And tense markers tend to be really short, like 1 or 2 letters, sometimes 4. And so looking at this, I was like, what can this be? But turns out that it is a very compound tense marker. Okay, so first of all, we have this tense marker that we have seen many times, is used for the past tense. And then we have this tense marker that is really long. It's already compound of two other tense markers. And it means something like if would. And so by combined with this past tense marker, I think that is telling us about something that when it used to happen in the past, something else would happen. I think this is what this means. And so it's kind of like, it's like telling us a story, I guess. It's like, I'm going to tell you a story of something that used to happen in the past. And that's corroborated by other things we're going to look elsewhere in the sentence. But yeah, it's interesting. And it's also interesting to note this, because we had seen this tense marker here, this past tense marker, but without this letter. And we had seen this tense marker before, but it never started with this letter here. And so I'm not sure what this letter is doing here. Maybe because this is such a compound tense marker, like, I don't know, maybe there are rules about how you can compound them, and for some reason you need this letter. I don't know, this is weird. But there's much we don't know about tense markers in Phyrexian. So anyway, let's move on. And okay, this word is pronounced something like Veornaish. And the reason why I'm focusing in the pronunciation is because I don't know what it means. I looked everywhere in the dictionary, I couldn't find anything like it. I looked in other examples of Phyrexian, some more recent examples that haven't made it into the dictionary. I'm working on the 3rd edition, but right now I'm working with the 2nd edition anyway. So, but the point is that I couldn't find anything that resembled Veornaish. So then I thought, well, maybe it's a name, because it has way too many consonants. Look, vowels. We have a vowel here and we have a vowel here. And it's weird. Usually Phyrexian words aren't so generous with vowels. Usually when they do that is with words like Yagmoth or Mephidros or Mirrodin, which are proper names. And so I thought, well, maybe this is a proper name. But looking in the wiki, I couldn't find any character with a name that resembled Veornaish. I mean, I found a few that kind of resemble, but not enough for me to be confident like this is supposed to be that character. I looked for characters in New Phyrexian and in Old Phyrexian, But I don't know. Maybe you can help me decipher this word. If you know more about the lore, and you have an idea of what character this could be referring to, please let me know. Or maybe this is a noun. Maybe this is a Phyrexian word, and this can be deciphered from something else we have seen elsewhere. I don't know. Maybe I missed something. But if you notice it, please also let me know. You can contact me on Twitter. You can, send me messages on Twitter. I'm at. You can find me as Highly Entropic Mind, and so yeah, please let me know. Let's make use of Twitter while we have it before Elon destroys it. Anyway. Then we have yet another word I have not been able to translate very confidently, but I think this is a compound word, and I think it's compounded in a very odd way. Like usually, like in English or German or many other languages, when you compound words, you just stick them at the end of each other, right? But that's not the only way to do that. Sometimes you can like slot words together, like they get mixed together. And some languages do that. Like famously, I always mention that Phyrexian was probably inspired by Semitic languages like Hebrew, Arabic, Amharic, that kind of stuff. And those languages do these kind of things sometimes. And so, yeah, maybe this can be a compound of the words break and complete. Although I'm not entirely sure. Let me show you why I think this is the case. So we have seen, I think, two examples of the word break. One of them is in a trailer for All Will Be One, where the Phyrexians are saying that they call to their voice calls out to the lost and the broken ones, to the lost and the broken. And we can see here this is broken. And then the other instance we have of break is in Vorinclex. And Vorinclex has trample. And trample is a compound word that is apparently made as the ability to break through, something like that. And if you look at these two words, you might look at them and say like, oh, they are definitely not the same word. They are very different. Look, this has a circle in here. This doesn't have a circle. But since Phyrexian is inspired by Semitic languages, what defines a word is not its vowels, but its consonants. And so when we write the consonants of these vowels, when you focus only on the consonants, you find that it's P, N, glottal stop, uvular stop. And these are the same consonants in both examples of the word. The vowels are different. So the vowels like change the meaning of the root, but the root is made of the consonants. So when we look at this example here, we find some of the same consonants. Look, we have a P, an N, so far so good. Then we have a stop, but it's not a glottal stop, which is not great. And then we don't have a uvular stop. Sometimes I think that you can change something like you can change a stop into some other kind of stop. You can change a fricative into some other kind of fricative, and it may still be the same word. But the fact that we are missing the last consonant makes me worried that this is not break. So yeah, I'm not. This is not. This is still a work in progress. We still need to look at more examples. Perhaps we are gonna come back at this some other time. I mean, it has happened before. Some translations I got wrong, like for example, under attack turned out to be completed, stuff like that. So I don't know. We just have to remember to keep to put a pin on this word. Also, another I think that the reason this can be also complete is because. This example here. So for example, this is Tamillo, the completed sage. And if we focus only on the part that says completed, you will notice that if we, I mean, again, just focusing on the consonants, we have P, L, N, K, S, plain accent. And then here we have P, L, so far so good. And then we do have an N, but we have an M before that. And yeah, as I'm telling you, there is evidence to suspect this is a break and complete, but anyway, and so, but what we do know, what we can know for sure is that this is a plural, because look, it has two vowels. Whenever we see two vowels in Phyrexian, that means a plural, pretty much like adding an S at the end of a noun in English. And so we know that this is referring to some group of people or some group of creatures, and they are like the broken ones. And maybe when you combine break and complete, maybe they are the incomplete ones. Yeah, I think incomplete ones is the best way we can translate it. I think it might be close to the actual meaning. Uh, but again, it's so yeah, we have had to put a pin on this. And then we have a verb. And again, this verb, I wasn't able to confidently say this is something. But I can tell you confidently that this is conjugated for the third person, which means that this veornage is doing this verb to the incomplete ones. And so I think it's gonna be fine. You're gonna look why, you're gonna see in a moment why I think this might be fine. Because this is this isn't one sentence, it's actually two sentences. This is the ending of one sentence, and then we have another one, and it starts with its own tense marker, and then it has a past tense marker, and it has a habitual tense marker. Both of them we have seen before, but again, oddly enough, we have this letter in between the tense markers. This is something that we hadn't seen. Come to think of it, and this is actually just, I'm just thinking about this right now as I record this. What if this is supposed to be some kind of accent? Because we know that the Phyrexian is developed enough that they have different accents. So for example, Urabrask seems to put tense markers at the end of sentences instead of at the beginning. And we have seen references to Urabrask having an accent. So maybe this is another kind of accent in which the tense marker, instead of being pronounced as uk, u, is instead pronounced as ush. That could be, I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, I have never seen this, or if we have seen it, I don't know, I completely missed it. But anyway, so what does this mean to have this past tense and habitual? So it's something that used to happen. So they are telling us that. So remember, this was a past tense conditional. So it's like whenever Veornage used to find the incomplete ones, then we have the second sentence. And okay, this word was interesting because at first I didn't know what it was, and so whenever I don't know a word, I'm like, well, sound it out. And often it doesn't help with like Veronage, but in this case it did help because I was like, Yakmoth, Yakmoth, and it was very satisfying to realize that, okay, so this is talking about Yakmoth. And so that's why I know that this is about the lore, because since this came up in a loading screen, I don't know, maybe it could be a tip, like the tips like, always leave mana open to, even if you can leave mana open, even if you cannot use it, just to make your opponent double guess themselves or something like that. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they mention Yakmoth means that this must be something lore related and not gameplay related. And then we have flesh. I'm quite confident that this is flesh because we have seen this word before. This is also from one of those trailers for a set almost like 10 years ago. I think it's called All Will Be One. And the Phyrexians are saying that they are perfection made flesh. And so this sentence, so when the subtitles say we are perfection made flesh, but the sentence in Phyrexian more precisely said present tense we, and then it has a weird prefix, but let's put up, so let me just show, this is a prefix, and just put a pin on that, remember that it's going to be relevant later, but it says present tense we, perfect work, present tense flesh. It's something like, so we are the perfect work that is flesh. So we are perfection made flesh. That's kind of like what it means. And so flesh, again, like the consonants are really different in both instances. Maybe because these are like different grammatical cases or something. But if we look at the consonants, which is quite difficult in this example because the resolution is not very good. This is why I'm so happy with this. The resolution is excellent. But I mean, if you struggle with your eyes for a moment, you will notice that the consonants are this, and they are the same consonants in this other case. So we can be sure that both of these words are the same and both of them are flesh. Okay, so far so good. And then let me show you. Okay, so here, and then we continue to this last word, and this has to be a verb because Phyrexian sentences, they always begin with a tense marker, they always end with a verb, and this is a verb we have seen many times before. This verb means put. We have seen it like put cards in your graveyard, put cards on the top of your library, put counters on players, put counters on permanent. We have seen it many times, so we know that this is put. The other thing is that it's conjugated with an a in the end. And this is a conjugation that we have not seen many times. And so it's kind of difficult to know exactly what it means. I mean, it has to be conjugated for Jacmod. Jacmod has to be the subject of this sentence. So I don't know, it's kind of unexpected, this conjugation here. Makes me rethink what we think we know about this. But that's a topic for another day. Anyway, we also notice that there is a sort of prefix before the verb to put. And at first I thought this was like the opposition marker, but no, the opposite marker is similar, but it has the orders in the opposite. The opposite marker has the letters in the opposite order as this. But you might notice that it is the same preposition as I mentioned here in this example. See, it is the same thing. We have like a glottal stop, and then we have the circle vowel. And so it's interesting. We have seen this before. I'm just not sure what it means. And so, yeah, putting all of this together, I think we can tentatively translate this phrase as when X found incomplete ones, Jagmur would put flesh on them? Huh. I mean, that's kind of like what it has to mean, because even if we don't understand the first sentence very well, we understand the second sentence really well. Past tense, habitual, Jagmod, flesh, put. Jagmod used to put flesh. That's like, that's very clear. Jagmod used to put flesh. That's the meaning of the second sentence. But why would Jagmod put flesh? It's not very in brand for Phyrexians, right? Phyrexians tend to remove flesh from things to turn them into cyborgs. I mean, not remove flesh entirely, because Phyrexians rightly think that perfection comes from the union of machine and meat, nature and technology, both together. For if you have only technology or only nature, that's not perfect. You have to combine both of them. Anyway, sorry for that moment of like Phyrexian proselytism. But the point is that why would Jagmoth be putting flesh on something? Maybe if like Jagmoth got a hold of machines that were purely mechanical, and to make them perfect, he was adding flesh to them. Which is, it matches with the Phyrexian ideology, I guess. And so maybe this weird word here is referring to artifact creatures or something. I'm not sure. I'm very confused by this. Or maybe this prefix here is changing the meaning of put. And so this is just, I'm not sure that this is right. I'm just saying this is a possibility. That maybe instead of put, that prefix changes the meaning to remove, and that would make more sense, right? Like when X, this X is vernage, whatever vernage is or whatever it means. So when vernage found incomplete ones, Jagmod would remove flesh from them. Maybe that's what it means. I'm not entirely sure, because I'm not entirely sure that this prefix is an opposition marker. But anyway, so that's how it goes translating sometimes. Sometimes you can translate things really well, and sometimes you are left with a couple of questions. But I'm sure that eventually we will be able to circle back to this and figure out what or who vernage is, what is this verb, and what is... So basically these three words here is what we have to figure out to like have more certainty about what this means. But so, yeah, anyway, I think that's it for today. But I think this is not the only Phyrexian text we are going to have in Magic Arena. I think there are going to be many examples of tips in the loading screen written in Phyrexian. And if that's the case, I need all of you to take screenshots of that and send it to me on Twitter. And also, if you see loading text tips that are not gameplay related, but rather that they have like lore, please also send them to me, especially if they mention Jack mode or the Phyrexians or something about glistening oil, stuff like that. Because I think that we are going to have the advices in the loading screen both in Phyrexian and in English. And so we are going to have to be able to match both of them. So you know what I mean? We're going to have the examples in Phyrexian and examples in English, but they're not going to tell us which versions in English are the equivalent for the Phyrexian versions. But I think we will be able to match them fairly accurately, fairly easy. And so anyway, so yeah, please, if you see these examples in the update of Magic Arena, send them to me. And also data miners. This is going to be very important because sometimes just the names of the files could be really useful. And so yeah, when the next update comes up, so data mine it and look for anything out of place, look for anything unusual, look for anything that doesn't follow the naming conventions of other files, and stuff like that. And please do let me know, and I'll give you credit in the videos we make about that. And so, well, yeah, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. But before we go, I have to give special thanks to Automotiosum, Valerie Hyde, T. Highfield, Ryan Roberts, Carla Facioli, and Cookie Soft Tea. All my Patreons, thanks 1,000 times, thanks a million times.